Settings for YouTube. All right, here we go. Okay, and we are live. So, hey, this is the first time I'm going live on YouTube, so this will be interesting to see how this goes. But I am joined by Matt, who also goes by Bumpkins TV on social media. How you doing, man?
Good. How's it going?
Good. I know we're going to keep this short because this is kind of like a last minute thing, and I know we both have things to do. But I thought we can talk a little bit about the DC Universe announcement that DC Warner Brothers had announced today, primarily from the co-chairs of DC Studios, James Gunn and Peter Safran. First, I want to get like just kind of overall initial thoughts, and then I have three kind of screenshots of tweets from discussing film that I'm just
Okay.
going to throw up there and everything. But just initial thoughts. What are your like? Now it's been about 7 hours since it's been announced. Probably
Had
more
time
like
to
nine
process a
hours.
little bit.
Yeah, exactly. What's your thinking now in terms of what they've announced and what to expect and everything like that? What's your
Uh,
thoughts?
I mean, I think it's all fantastic. I think, when I first heard about James Gunn taking over all this stuff, and Peter Safran, but James Gunn taking over all this stuff, I
Hmm.
was like, there's no telling what we're liable to get because he took Guardians of the Galaxy from somebody that only comic fans knew to a household name. Then he did
Right.
the same thing with Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. I was like, there's no telling what if it were anybody else, I would say we're going to get Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Green Lantern, but we're getting Creature Commandos and Swamp Thing and the Authority. I mean, like, who would ever have thought we were going to get an Authority movie? I don't even know much about the Authority at all, but I think it's a very interesting lineup of things we're going to get. But I am glad that they are still making Superman the focal point.
Yeah.
Like sort of revolving the whole thing around him. And I think
Yeah.
it's cool too that we're already getting different aspects. So like we're getting the plain Jane superhero stuff, we're getting the horror aspect out of Swamp Thing, we're getting the space stuff out of Lanterns. Like it's very very an interesting lineup for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And
and
I'm
I
excited for all of it. Like there's not one thing that I won't watch. Like there's some that I'm more excited about than others, but there's not one thing that I won't watch.
yeah. Yeah, I think when we were talking about this earlier, I just felt. I think initially I just felt underwhelmed just because a number of reasons. One is I didn't know like many of these stories or anything like that. Like I of course I knew who Swamp Thing is, but like I never really read a comic, and the only experience I've had with Swamp Thing was the really weird TV movie that came out in the 80s or 90s, and then
Oh
the
yeah.
one like episode that they tried to release like years ago, and then they canceled it and everything. And so I think Swamp Thing is really interesting, and hopefully they will do a good job of that. I'll be honest, like I thought it'd be a lot of fun if they bring if they did a live action hippie man bun Swamp Thing that they got from the Harley Quinn show. I don't know if you have
Oh
you seen
yeah.
that yet.
I don't. I've watched Harley Quinn the first season. I haven't seen
Okay.
Swamp Thing in it yet.
Oh yeah, he shows up in the second or third season, and he's
Okay.
great. Yeah, you'll enjoy him. So again, they mock each other and they mock themselves. But yeah, like overall, like some of the other properties, I didn't know much about, which is fine. Like it's I'm not expecting to know all that, and just like what you said, it's kind of expected with James Gunn to pull in some of the more of the unknown type of properties that's not big on the in the popular media or the general population for on their minds and things like that. So that's to expected. Superman Legacy. Again, I'm a fan of Superman, but I have not read the Legacy storyline. I think the
Well, there's not
Batman.
one. Like I mean, that's not there. I don't is, and the thing is, we don't know much about any of these at all. But
Right,
from I don't think it's going to be adapted from any story. He said he's in the middle of writing it right now.
right.
He might borrow elements from some different stories, but there's not one main story that it's going to be adapted from.
Right. Yeah. So it's just and again, like he's definitely going to bring stuff from the comic books. I mean, that's what he's done before and everything like that.
Hmm.
But yeah. So it's but the thing is like we don't know much about any of those films. The Brave and the Bold. I know there was a animated show based on that same name, but I never watched that show. I know there's a lot of people talking about Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which and, I'll go ahead and switch over here real quick, and we'll just kind of since we're talking about the movies, we'll just go ahead
Yeah.
and bring up the movies here. So this is a whole list that we have here, right? And so I'll get back to that here in a second. But I know Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is really interesting because it's written by Tom King. I've heard nothing but great things about that storyline. I personally have feel that Tom King is a little bit hit or miss sometimes, and just with some of the stuff I've read of his, sometimes it's really fantastic. Other times I'm like, I don't know what's going on here, but the consistency I've heard from people since this has been announced is that this is one of the best stories from DC that people have enjoyed, and so I'm looking forward to that just because I think it's really cool to have a Supergirl film kind of coming out in this first chapter, right? That he's calling it, which we don't know what chapter means yet. We don't know if it's just like a phase or whatever. We know that this is just the first part of chapter 1. It's not a finished chapter yet by any means. But yeah, so it's really interesting. I think just like what you said, I just felt a little underwhelmed because at the end of the day, it's like we still don't know much about anything of these movies other than a couple of them have potential release dates and a little bit of what James Gunn has announced, and kind of shared, what to expect from it or where you got the inspiration from and things like that. So we do know that The Flash is supposed to reset the timeline. Like James Gunn had said that in the video that they released today. So it's supposed to reset the timeline, but I think you and I were talking about how it's still kind of unsure what that all means because they also confirmed that Jason Momoa is going to do a third Aquaman film. So it's like if they're resetting the timeline, like how does that fit into it, things like that. So there's still a lot of questions in terms of how all this previous stuff is supposed to mesh into this new universe, especially if they're saying that the Flash is supposed to reset everything. Well, how does Jason Momoa's Aquaman kind of fit into that as well too? So,
well, and it is weird that they, I would think that they would want to go completely clean break or not. You know what I mean? And
right,
they've made the stance. Henry Cavill is gone as Superman, which is a bummer. We want a new, younger Superman. Okay, fine. But you've still got Jason Momoa, possibly Gal Gadot. You've still got possibly Ezra Miller and possibly Zachary. Like they left that door open. However, just because it's the same actor doesn't mean it has to be the same universe. So like Flash might reset everything, and then a couple years down the road, we might get a Jason Momoa Aquaman 3 that is set in this new DCU, not the previous Snyderverse. Just because it's the same guy doesn't necessarally mean it's the same universe, So that all remains to be seen. I'm still not convinced that they're gonna do Aquaman 3. I don't know that they really confirmed it, but I think they said, I think like Peter Safran said Jason Momoa would be up for it, and he always envisioned it as a trilogy. But I still don't know.
And that's the thing is like I think if it was like more of a general news day, I would agree with you. But the fact that they announce all these things and then they mention that, like I think the timing of it says something. But again, I mean, we've seen this happen. It could totally change, the next few years, and maybe they're just like, yeah, let's just be done with Aquaman and just kind of move on and everything. So but yeah, so this is the list. I think we've hit most of them. Paradise Lost is another one of those things as well. Not as much as Aquaman 3, but it's supposed to take place before the Wonder Woman film with the Amazonians.
Before she was born, I believe is what it says.
Is that what it is? Yeah. They say it was before the film, so I don't know like how far. But again, I only had time to look at the tweets that Discussing Film had put out. I didn't have time to like actually go through and read all the press releases and stuff like that. But it could be. So, but yeah. So these are all. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say like Paradise Lost, like that, like. I'll watch all of these. I think that one's probably my least anticipated of all of these. I mean, I'm not, no disrespect to it or anything, but like if I had an order, if all these were ready right now and I had an order of those, I'd probably watch that one last. That's probably the one I'm least interested in because I don't really like, I don't care much about Themyscira without Wonder Woman. So, I don't know. But if they're going to drop it on HBO Max, I'm already subscribed to that anyway. So I'll watch it for sure.
Right.
I don't really know. I don't know the purpose of that one. Like why we need that one. And I hate to say it because, I'm not trying to like poo poo on it or whatever, but that one just seems a little bit weird to me.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, and it's interesting that some of these are TV shows and some of these are getting their own movies. And what's interesting with this, and this actually kind of goes into the next one here that I'm going to pull up, is the announcement was about Elseworld. So they didn't announce anything about the Penguin show or anything else.
Yeah.
They did announce that Batman Part 2 is confirmed. It's going to come out in 2025, I think, in like the fall, if I remember correctly. But you
Yep.
know, the sequel to the Joker and then the Black Superman film in quotes, like that's, I don't know why it's in quotes or who said that or anything like that, but that's how they're labeling it right now. Those are part of the Elseworlds, which I will say this. I want to get your thoughts on this. I think this was a smart move for a couple of reasons. One, those films have been very, very successful, so it would not make sense for them to just completely, shut those down. I think it also makes sense because now James Gunn can kind of create a universe that has that cohesive vision, but allows those to continue on without, getting into conflict with that vision as well. But then that still gives them an opportunity to experiment with other kinds of styles of films and shows without, ruining, the DCU timeline that they're having. So they can take risks with those things. And if it,
Yeah.
fails, it's just like, well, it doesn't affect the main thing because it's kind of its own world and things like that. So I think this makes a lot of sense. And this is smart, business, but practical sense as well, too, because it allows the successful things to continue, but it also allows them to take chances and experiment with different kinds of films and genres and things like that that may not make sense in the future vision of James Gunn and Peter Safran.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's super smart because, like, when Marvel tries to do something that's a little bit maybe outside of the MCU, like with that Spider-Man cartoon, Spider-Man
Mm-hmm.
freshman year, was it?
Right.
That I thought I heard got canceled, but I'm not sure. The minute
Ooh.
they announced that and released a couple of pieces of artwork, everybody was bending over backwards trying to figure out, is this part of the MCU? And if or
Yeah.
not if it is, but how is it? Because this one, there's Norman Osborn instead of Tony Stark, and how does that fit? And not
Right.
everything has to fit, right? So I just love that they've sort of got a game plan for that already. They're just going to slap the Elseworlds label on it. Like, we can
Mm-hmm.
make anything we want to make.
Right.
And if we don't want to put it in the main DCU, we'll just slap that Elseworlds label on it, and that gives us carte blanche to do whatever we want to do without messing up this other grand story we're telling. So we can make as many Robert Pattinson Batman movies as we want, and as many Joker movies, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever else we want to do.
Right.
And we've got a license to be able to do that. So that's super smart on their part.
I agree.
And
Yeah.
and DC is the best poised to do that because they're known for their multiverse. They're known for doing the Elseworld books,
Mm-hmm.
all the different. There's dozens and dozens of Elseworld stories over the from the 80s and 90s, and so like it's if anybody can pull it off, they can.
Right. Right. And I apologize. Apparently, your name is Derek right now.
Yeah, that's fine. I've been called
I
worse.
thought it had to change, yeah, and I don't know, like it should have been changed. I don't know why it's not, but yeah, I agree. And then I think the other thing that's really interesting is there's a lot of things that weren't really addressed or said that still needs to be mentioned. So, like earlier, I think you saw the TikTok that I made. The fact that they're doing Aquaman 3, and then they also said Peter Gunn or James Gunn also said that an actor is not going to play more than one role. Kind of
Yeah.
implies that Jason Momoa may not play Lobo in the DCU. Now,
Which really bums me out. I think he would be perfect. I think he would be more perfect for Lobo than he is for Aquaman. Like
yeah,
that's that
yeah.
that's perfect casting.
Yeah, I mean, he made Aquaman really cool. Like, I
Mhm.
think a lot of people got really excited about Aquaman when he came on board, but I think Lobo just made a lot of sense for him as well, too. The other things are the things that didn't really get mentioned that we're kind of wondering about as well, too. So, first of all, they already said that Superman and Lois are probably only going to have one or two more seasons, and then that'll be it. Which is fine, because we're starting the third season, so having a fourth or fifth season, I think, makes sense, and they probably will be fine with wrapping that up there. But then like something like Harley Quinn being an animated series, like how that fits into all this as well too. Now,
Slap that Elseworlds label on it,
I
and then
know
you're good.
that's what I'm thinking, and so and again, it'll just be really interesting to see the things that they let continue on, how that still fits. And my guess is, just like what you said, it'll be an Elseworlds, property or whatever. Not that people are going to be asking, how does Harley Quinn fit into this? Because I think people are just like, I'm going to enjoy it for what it is. I'm not going to worry
Yeah,
about how it fits
I
into
think
that
it's you could
greater
watch
thing.
like one or two episodes and realize what type of show that is, and just you just know, oh, this must
Yes.
not be part of.
Right.
any larger story.
It's a spoof satire on the DC
Yeah.
characters and stuff like that. So it's definitely not going to be something that's going to be considered part of that larger universe. But there's probably little other things that probably in existence that people will start asking about. But again, like the biggest thing is Aquaman 3 and the Paradise Lost, like how those are still kind of from the current DCU, and they seem like they're continuing into the new one, even though the Flash is supposed to reset everything. So it'll be interesting to see how they explain that later on. And I'm sure they probably have an idea and know how they're going to do that. They didn't announce that, and they don't have to announce that right now because we're still got a couple years away.
Oh yeah, we're so far away from all this stuff.
Yeah, so I think they got another year before they can really explain how that's going to happen. But what's interesting is that all these things are coming out 2025. So it makes me wonder what's happening in 2024. Like, are they just not going to have anything? Like, they're just going
I don't
to call
think
that
so.
like a building year?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to have anything. I think,
Yeah.
well, I think they said that the Creature Commandos animated series will be the first thing we see
Okay.
because he said he's already written all the episodes and it's already in production.
Okay.
So I think that's the first thing we're getting. And I thought I heard him say that the Waller TV series is the second thing we'll be getting.
Okay.
And then the third will be Superman, and that's your official start of this new DCU. So we might get those two shows next year.
Right.
But
That makes
other
sense.
than that, I think DC's like, listen, we need a break.
Yeah.
We're going to lock ourselves in a room for a year, and we're going to get our house in order, and then we're going to hit the ground running in 2025.
Right. Yeah. Well, and we might get the Penguin series coming out next year or so too.
Well,
So,
yeah, that's true too.
yeah. So we might still be getting stuff. It's just that all the things that they announced, the earliest date that we got like officially confirmed about anything is 2025. So it might be a lighter year and definitely, but yeah, so we'll see about all that. So, but I know we're about 10 o'clock and I know you and I have a hard, end time for 10 o'clock. So thanks.
I'm good to go till 10:30 unless you need to go.
Yeah, I probably need to go because I
Okay.
got other stuff to do and
Yeah.
and just a bunch of stuff going on. You know that. But I appreciate you jumping on the last minute and being Derek. I don't know why that showed up, but being Derek. And
I take it as a compliment.
Yeah.
Derek's a good guy, so I'll take the compliment.
He is, yeah. So, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And yeah, if you want to come back on and do this again for like breaking news and stuff like that, we can do that.
Oh,
So,
dude, yeah, I can. Like I said, I can talk about this stuff all the time. So yeah, anytime there's something to talk about, I can do it for sure.
awesome. Sounds good. All right. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Bye.